Kevin Warren left the conference so early. When he joined, he was the 5th commissioner in conference history. The previous commissioners had a 40% chance of dying in office. Your boy left after 3 years. What is up, everybody? It is Jake with Master of Football back at it again. Happy Monday. Thank you so much for being here. If you want to be up to date on everything college football, pro football, Madden, EA college football, NFL draft, anything related to American football, hit that red subscribe button. You'll not be disappointed. Also, the like button, too. We are 12 away from 1,000, baby. Quest for it. Come on, you know you want it to, man. Hit that subscribe button. You know you want to, man. Without further ado, let's get into the video. All right, guys, we got ourselves a dandy of a report that came out yesterday, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ESPN. That's in a, let's just say the simplest way here, puts into question the tenure of Kevin Warren. We have dueling narratives now about him, and there's probably something in between him in terms of what it actually is. But we have to go through that article here because it draws a picture of, like I said, one aspect, very benevolent, very, very innovative and go-getter of a commissioner. On the other hand, it turns out that he may or may not have left himself a little bit of a mess for the next guy. Let's get into that article right now. Here we are from Pete Carroll, how an unfinished TV deal led to an unexpectedly hectic first month for the new Big Ten commissioner. Pete Carroll, again, yesterday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, when the Big Ten officially introduced Tony Petitti, I'm sure I'm saying his name right, as its new commissioner nearly a month ago. He listed 4 immediate priorities in his role as one of the most powerful people in college sports. I would argue possibly even the most powerful person in college sports these days. The league needed to integrate USC and UCLA into for the 2024-2025 season. They also needed to explore new media rights deal for the expanded CFP and focus on the tricky issue of NIL. Lastly, Petitti prioritize the official completion, or keep in mind that word official there, for the massive television contract worth more than $7 billion negotiated by his predecessor, Kevin Warren. This issue may have seemed like a mere formality, but complications to the much-celebrated deal arose soon after he accepted the job. And again, we notice here the fact that, Jim Delaney was in his position for many, many years, whereas, and actually most Big Ten commissioners, as we'll see here in a second, were in their, seats for many, many years. Kevin Warren was only there for a little over 3 years, and then he decided to bail, leaving the job to Tony Petitti. Nearly 3 months before the season kicks off and those TV deals begin, the Big Ten does not have completed long-form contracts, which include the fine print details. Instead, Petitti is engaged in significant, quote-unquote, horse trading, according to multiple sources, to get the NBC primetime deal finished and figure out what the network calls outstanding issues in order to uphold as much value as possible. These deals aren't done, and they aren't what they were represented to be from the standpoint of NBC and the availability of all members to participate in November games in primetime. And to keep in mind that November games in primetime point here, that's a smaller issue here. There are bigger issues to go address really quickly here, but interviews with nearly a dozen sources in and around the Big Ten and the college sports industry paint a picture of Petitti sprinting to navigate details left unresolved from his predecessor. As a result, there's a trail of unhappy athletic ADs seeing money disappearing from their bottom line, frustrated television executives, and big-name coaches irked about the lack of transparency in details that weren't communicated to them. And again, that last point there doesn't impact it so much, but you see the other ones there, especially the TV executives, the whole point behind this deal being so amazing was $1 billion per year paid out to 14 schools. Well, it was incredible. However, it seems that many of the smaller details, and some of them actually were a lot bigger than you think, weren't handled. And if you think about Kevin Warren, what he's been able to do, he actually, this next paragraph here kind of goes through how he's initially started off there, because he started off really, really strong. It says Kevin Warren took over as Big Ten commissioner in January 2020, and in just 3 years at the helm, he dealt with the COVID-19 pandemic, helped bring USC and UCLA into the conference in a landscape-altering deal, and secured the massive TV payday before heading back to the NFL as the team president and CEO of the Bears. When he accepted that job, he said he was leaving the Big Ten, quote, in a demonstrably better position, which was true financially as the schools project more revenue than any other league over the course of the deal. His work adding USC and UCLA, who joined the conference after the 2023-2024 season, was widely praised by members and provided a financial jolt to the television deal. On campus, it's a bit more muddled. Big Ten schools have seen potential revenue disappear in the past few months from a contract that was announced back in August as being worth an average of nearly $1 billion per year through the 2029 football season. More than $70 million in total is suddenly in flux, nearly $5 million per school, and it has suddenly left administrators around the league seeking answers and calling for financial accountability. Recently, schools have found out about, and then they go over these three big situations here. So what I wasn't able to know is this $70 million at once, $70 million over the course of the deal, because if we're thinking about this again, so, $1 billion per year, $7 billion total, so $7 billion and $70 million bucks. So it would knock off potentially 1% of the deal. And again, 1% is big, especially 1% of $7 billion is a lot. But I just want to make sure we remember here that number is significantly smaller than we would project. But again, you lose $70 million bucks, you're going to have some questions. Here's how they're going to potentially lose that much money. It says right here, the schools have found, item number one, they're going to have to pay back nearly $40 million to Fox because, according to sources, Warren delivered NBC the Big Ten football title game in 2026 without full authority to do so. This all has unfolded under the complicated backdrop of the Big Ten Conference not actually controlling the rights to the inventory of this latest deal. The Big Ten Network does, which is majority owned by Fox. More on that below. And again, you see lots and lots of weird situations here with Fox partnering with the Big Ten Network owning the deal, the Big Ten going out and finding a deal with NBC, even though the rights are with the Big Ten Network, which is owned by Fox. It's just a whole, conundrum. The second point here they wanted to go over, they're going to have to pay back $25 million total for a deal to pay Fox back for the lost 2020 football game inventory. Remember that national championship that year, that was Ohio State playing against Alabama. Alabama was 12-0 at the time, and Ohio State was 7-0. And the big reason why was because non-conference games, and there was a whole bunch of things about that. So the Big Ten only had a couple games, whereas the SEC played a more full schedule. And last but not least, it says there's tens of millions of dollars of value of the NBC primetime deal in flux because as Petitti has been racing to ensure it keeps much of its original value as possible. Historically in the Big Ten, after the first weekend in November, schools were not required to play night games for a myriad of reasons, health, recovery, campus logistics, among them. These were known in league circles as tolerances, and prior television contracts accounted for them. And I knew also, from what I understand too, Michigan and Michigan State used to not play each other at night for the basic reason of if they had Michigan and Michigan State fans who both all kind of live with each other or close to each other, basically drinking all day and then playing at night, there would have been endless fights. I mean, you heard about the whole, tunnel fight last week. That was between players who were sober. Imagine what it's like with the fans in the stands. It continues on here. It says multiple sources told ESPN there's been pushback from a number of schools, including Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State, to play those late November games under the new contract. That leaves Petitti to figure out how to uphold a deal for hundreds of millions of dollars for primetime games without cooperation from some of the league's marquee teams for part of the regular season's most important month. Athletic departments and coaches around the Big Ten say they were surprised November night games would be part of the deal. They weren't asked for permission to play them prior to the deal or informed of the change ahead of the deal, according to sources. At the same time, NBC wasn't aware until well after the initial contract was signed this summer that these big brand schools had historic tolerances that were part of the prior television arrangements and would resist being available. It says right here, NBC was surprised. And I was surprised. Michigan AD Ward Manuel. He says, we had not discussed, and I had not discussed with anyone in the league to change the tolerances we had agreed upon years ago. And again, Kevin Warren, you could see that he was playing, fast and loose with the rules here in order to get that $1 billion deal. This is a classic scenario here. Anybody who's been in business knows this is the classic scenario where the sales department, Kevin Warren, and the operations department, the schools, did not agree with each other. And many times the operations department is put in a situation to make up for the sales department's, let's just say here, disregard for, common courtesy or practice. Now, there's good news on this front here. It says, while this is being worked through, Ohio State and Penn State and Michigan State recently agreed to concessions to make a short-term sacrifices to help the league make up for some lost revenue from the NBC deal. Penn State will play on the road in a short week on Black Friday against Michigan State, a game that was scheduled before Penn State agreed to it. Ohio State will host Michigan State on November 11th, the latest ever home night game in Ohio State history, which is viewed as another concession to help the league through this moment. And again, you see these whole situations. Oh, we have to fly over to LA now for games. Oh, we got to play games at night. Remember here, money runs all. They'll figure it out. They'll play the night game. That will not be a big situation. However, you saw the other situations there with the title game and then with the revenue loss from the COVID season. Those are still up in the air, but there are things that these schools are willing to do to make sure that they are the highest compensated league in the world, in the college football world. So they're doing them. So it continues on here. It says, another industry source said of Petitti, it says, this is what he's walking into right now. Tony is trying to save it, and what Penn State and Ohio State are doing is actually trying to minimize the losses. And what do you know? Warren did not return requests for comment. So this article continues on here, and it goes into the coaches, and I'm going to leave the coaches to have it because the coaches didn't like any of this because they're basically the coaches even said we're basically the last ones to know. However, there's also a key compensation point here from their perspective to pay Kevin Warren because of, let's just say, unheld promises, what we'll say here. So it says here there are two new partners, NBC and CBS, attempting to work out their long-form deals. Remember here that the Big Ten Network owns the rights of most of this content. Big Ten Network is in partner with Fox. They brought in NBC and CBS, competitors of Fox, who are now being promised games here and there. So it's all, a bunch of hoopla in this situation. It says that Fox, that's riding shotgun on this bumpy ride, including being upset that Warren promised the title game the Fox had controlled without the permission. So the league and Fox also have been in talks with Amazon about the deal that ultimately went to NBC. But according to sources, there was late pushback by key campus stakeholders that some of the biggest brands weren't ready for part of the marquee package to only be available on streaming. You see the NFL is doing that. The Pac-12 is kind of dipping their feet into it, but you can definitely tell there is a resistance to streaming across the world, both college, both pro, both here and there. It's a complex issue out there. So the Pac-12, the fact that the deal is taking so long, probably because of so many things here and there that they're weighing as to whether or not they should go to streaming or not. It said here, because of this deal technically not being done, it leaves the league facing a decision on a potential bonus for Warren, who didn't have a bonus clause tied to the television deal in his contract. Warren's predecessor, Jim Delaney, got a bonus of more than $20 million that was announced in 2017, and he's still getting paid for it because he led the negotiation that sold all the rights through this decade. The bonus had been in Delaney's contract prior to the deal. The league has brought an outside search firm, Korn Ferry, to determine whether Warren's work with this television deal should bring him a bonus. So that whole article really puts into question Kevin Warren's legacy. Like I said, on one hand, he brought in USC and UCLA. He helped them through the COVID situation, signed one of the biggest deals ever in college sports. On the other hand, really left a lot of things up in the air. As a matter of fact, he was one of, if not the shortest commissioner stints in big-time college football in a while. We come over here to the Big Ten on Wikipedia, and then comes over here about their commissioners. So we see first one, John L. Griffith, 22 years, died in office. Kenneth L. Tug Wilson, 16 years, retired. William R. Reed, 10 years, died in office. Wayne Duke, 18 years, retired. Jim Delaney, 21 years, retired. Kevin Warren, 3 years, resigned. So you see the factor there. I mean, Kevin Warren left the conference so early. When he joined, he was the 5th commissioner in conference history. He had the previous commissioners had a 40% chance of dying in office. Your boy left after 3 years. Can you tell that he might have had some situations where he's like, I don't want to deal with that? Probably. This kind of reminds me of a man by the name of Pete Carroll. Now, Pete Carroll is one of the most celebrated names in USC history, and rightfully so in many respects. However, the exit for him was, let's just say, not as beautiful and put into question potentially his entire tenure while he was there. Now, again, I still think he's one of the best coaches in college history. However, definitely didn't leave under the best circumstances. So it says here on January 11th, 2010, it was reported that Carroll would be leaving the USC to coach the Seahawks. Carroll had told his players the previous evening that he would be resigning his position with the Trojans and to become the new head coach of the Seahawks. So it said right here on June 9th, 2010, it was reported that Carroll had appeared in front of the 10-member NCAA committee on infractions that previous Friday. So he left on January, and then on June 9th, it was reported, it was because you were kind of up in for investigation. And then he said, no, I definitely didn't leave because of the investigations. No, don't worry about that. We can kind of put 2 and 2 together here. So what is Kevin Warren's legacy? Is he the guy that got you through COVID? Is he the guy who brought USC and UCLA in? Is he the guy who signed the biggest deal ever? Or is he the guy that basically he was moved fast and loose with the rules here and there, got to the point to where he was, like I said, the deal wasn't really ironed out. I'm going to bail. I'm just go to the Bears. What's the situation with Kevin Warren? Is he one of the best commissioners in school conference history, or is he kind of a guy who bailed when things got difficult? I don't really know. Like I said, the previous Big Ten commissioners, 2 out of the 5 had died in office, and he was there for 3 years. Okay, I don't really know what to make of it. I do know that the truth is probably on both sides. Maybe Kevin Warren wasn't the details guy that he wanted to be, but ultimately he still will be remembered as one of the most important guys in college football history. So you saw the fact there, and again, at most, it looks like they're going to lose 1% of their deal. That's still a lot. 1% of $7 billion is a lot of money. However, like I said, it really brings into question, what is Kevin Warren's legacy? You guys, get in the comments right now. Let me know. What are you guys going to remember from Kevin Warren? USC, UCLA? The further, expedition of conference realignment, or the fact that your boy was kind of just shooting from the hip over here in terms of rules and regulations and contracts and stuff like that? You guys get in the comments right now and let me know. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you so much for being here. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff. I really appreciate it. That's it for me, guys. I'll see you guys later. I am out.